Hi guys, it's Jill from Wild Strong. Here's a quick video on how to get started with crawling. One of the big reasons that we teach crawling, and we do it all year round, and there are loads of different ways to crawl, but the big reason that we do it is because it teaches us confidence on the ground. It's brilliant for building up your wrist and your shoulder strength. It's also really good for core dynamic stability, which you kind of need for everything. It's a brilliant full body movement that really, if you get confident at crawling, you can kind of link it. It links you into lots of other strength movements as well, really nicely. And that, the reason I was saying at the beginning is it gets you confident on the ground. It's really important as we age to become stronger at moving on the ground, and all of those joints and muscles that are required to get down and get back up. It feels sort of irrelevant when you're in your 20s and 30s, but even in your 40s you can start to see people who are actively avoiding spending time on the ground, and you think, well, I don't really need to be on the ground, I don't spend very much time on the ground. We're all going to fall. It doesn't really matter who you are, you're going to fall over at some point. So it's not really about preventing falls, it's more about when those falls happen, are we strong enough to be able to turn the fall just into a tumble and get back up and walk on, or does that fall then become an injury? And that's kind of where all of the ground-based movement really comes in and pays dividends as you get older. So let's get into the crawl and really see where people struggle with first. We'll break it down and then we'll kind of go through step by step and ways that you can add complexity and get more and more confident with the crawling. My favourite thing about the crawl is you can pretty much do it anywhere. Once you get over the fact that people find it a bit weird, that's fine, that passes quickly. You can do it in your living room, you can do it in the park, you can do it on the beach, you can do it on a hill. In fact, hill crawling is really good. You can do it forwards, backwards, sideways. It's super flexible, you can put it in any old time when you're boiling the kettle. Just love a crawl. Let's get into it. So when we first teach the crawl, a lot of people really struggle with it. And they struggle with it mainly because their brain is finding it really, really hard. Within a group context, that can very quickly translate to a sort of self-confidence thing and being a little bit conscious of what other people are thinking, and then your brain noise gets really loud and you can't do anything. But if you're on your own at home and you haven't got anyone who's judging you for your crawling, which I don't think people are in the group, but you feel it. If you're on your own at home and no one's looking at you, but you're finding that your brain is not quite letting you crawl, we need to do a little bit of movement prep first, sort of like a warm-up. The reason we warm up before we do any complex movements or any skill-based movements is not just to warm up our muscles and our bodies, but it's also to prep our brains, to give them a bit of context, to kind of show them what's to come. So often if we're doing any of our skill-based movements, we'll do it without any weight or slow it right down in the warm-up, so that by the time it comes to the movement, we're all on board, brain is cooperating. So the big thing that people find with crawling is this idea behind the contralateral movement, that's moving the opposite hand and leg at the same time. So when you get into your crawl and suddenly you wiggle your right hand, you wiggle your right foot, and you think, yeah, I've got it. 1, 2, all that, and it all falls to pieces. Don't worry, it happens to everyone. It's very confusing. We don't crawl very much. The easiest way to prep your brain before that is a very, very simple march. So just, let's say with your left leg and your right arm moving at the same time, just on the spot. You can do it with me now if you want. Nice and slowly. We're not overcomplicating anything here. Just really want to get these two limbs moving at the same time. If you are not struggling with contralateral movement, you can skip through this part. Some people find it unbelievably hard, so really don't beat yourself up if you find it hard. Just do this first, and if you sort of stop thinking about it and that feels okay, go for a little walk. Just a little walk around your kitchen, around the garden, whatever. Just really prepping the brain. Okay, so that's starting to feel a bit more natural and you're not overthinking. We're going to go down onto the ground and start again thinking about those contralateral movements. Again, if you find the contralateral movement fine, skip ahead. So we've got our marches, now we're going to go down onto our bird dogs. Again, this is just prep for the brain really, and getting those muscles thinking about what they're doing. Coming down onto all fours, and you're just going to wiggle your right hand, wiggle your left foot, and then you're just going to bring them out here, bring them back to touch each other and out. We'll do it a few times on each side. You're just getting that brain thinking about those limbs moving together so that it doesn't all turn into scrambled eggs. If that feels okay, then we're going to start crawling. We start crawling with the baby crawl, and this is a really good entry to crawling. You just keep in that hand and your hands and knees down here, and just keep your feet down here as well. Don't overthink it. Really slowly, right hand, left leg, you're going to bring them forward at the same time. Just want you to do that, then come back to neutral. Same limbs, forward, come back to neutral. Let's say you do that 4 or 5 times on one side, 4 or 5 times on the other. Okay. If that's feeling fine, we're going to go up to the next stage. So now you've done that, just want to see if you can crawl, and just set yourself a little target, maybe just to the end of your garden, 4 or 5 meters, whatever space you've got. If you're in the kitchen, just do it to the wall and back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't go fast. Just go nice and slowly. Turn around and come back. And every time just counting 1 set. That's what I find helpful. So this is my 1 set. I'm just going to count these guys. 1, 2, 3. Just really focusing on 1 set moving at the same time seems to really unlock things for people. If that feels fine, we can go on up to the next level. Often though, we will keep clients on this level for a really long time, because when you first start crawling, a lot of people are not used to taking the weight in their wrists. So that the baby crawl is a great place to start. If that feels like quite a lot for you, stay on that stage. Try and do a little bit every day, and after a couple of weeks, when it doesn't feel so uncomfortable on your wrists, then you can kind of move on up. At the end of this video, I've put in some wrist warm-ups. There are a lot of people that, because we spend very, very little time with our wrists in this position, it can be really uncomfortable when you first start. But again, you do want to try and maintain that full range of motion as you get older with your wrists, and in fact all of your limbs. But I've put some warm-ups in for that, just in case that's what's really you're finding difficult about the crawl. So let's go on and up to the next stage. So we've done our baby crawls and we're happy with our baby crawls. Next we're going to go up to the bear crawl. We teach the bear crawl next because it's a little bit easier than the other ones that come first. This is a much higher bottom. So same beginning with the bear crawl, exactly as we did with the baby crawl. Come down onto all fours to here, and then just going to come up with a nice high bottom. I've got soft knees, but we're going to start in the same way. So we're going to start with this hand and this foot going forward. 1, 2, 3, and just practice going back and forth, opposite hand to opposite leg. Get that a few times until it starts to click. Once you think you've got it, let's crawl. Get to your wall, get to the end of your garden, crawl back. At this stage, it's really about getting the movement pattern. Don't really worry what it looks like. You can hone in the finesse later. Just really focusing on that opposite hand and opposite leg moving at the same time. If that feels okay, and you've done it for a few weeks, again, these stages can take a long time, so stick in whichever stage you want, and you'll see that over time you kind of get stronger, you get more familiar with the movement pattern, your wrists and your shoulders get stronger, your core stability becomes better, and you can shift on up. Don't rush it, there is no rush. Okay, so we're finding crawling pretty good, and we're thinking actually I'm ready to go to the next level. Now we're going to introduce the leopard crawl. This is quite a lot harder, so you've got a lower bottom. This is much more about core stability, but it's a brilliant one if you want to get in quite hard conditioning movements in, if you're doing you're doing exercise at home, this is a great one to sort of ramp up to. We use these loads over the summer and the winter actually in Wild Strong sessions. We do them on the spot, and we do really long distance ones in the summer. We have one session where we actually do a 100-metre leopard crawl, but that takes us quite a few months to work up to that strength and stamina to do it, and most of us are doing a few metres at a time and having a chill out. But it's nice to kind of see how much more confident you become, and over time add that distance. So let's get on with the leopard crawl. Okay, leopard crawl, down in that quadruped position again, and this time you're just going to hover your knees. So this is already much harder than here, and obviously much harder than having your knees down. In that knee hovering position, the same start again, opposite hand, opposite leg, thinking about having a cup of tea on your back. You don't want to spill, so you don't want to lift my bum up too much. 1. These are called leopard crawl touches, or that's what we call them anyway. These are fantastic if you want to do core stability stuff, but they're really good for prepping the brain. They're actually very hard. So if you do 5 on each side, you'll really start to feel it. Once you feel like you've got that, you can just go for another crawl. Nice and slowly. By this point you should have the opposite hand, opposite leg thing. So really just focusing on that form, so keeping your back nice and low, not letting your bum come up too high, and just getting a much smoother crawl. Those ones are much, much harder, like I can really feel that in my core just from doing that. But these are fantastic for building trunk strength that you need for life. Once you've done the leopard crawl, you've done your bear crawl, you've done your baby crawl, then we can start introducing backwards and sideways. Although as I speak I realise that you can add backwards and sideways to every stage of these crawls, so let's talk about that. Once you've got confident on the crawl stage that you're at, whether it's the baby crawl, the bear crawl or the leopard crawl, then you can start to add complexity, by which I mean you can start playing around with going backwards and sideways. We love teaching people to crawl in all directions in a square, because it really shifts your weight on your wrists and gets you to shift your weight through your shoulders, and really builds up that in-between strength that I spoke about earlier, which is really what holds everything together. You just want to be strong in the little in-between positions that we don't spend much time thinking about. So let's look at some of those adding layers of complexity, and you can do this at any stage of the crawling journey. So I'm going to pick the leopard crawl because that's what I've been doing a lot of recently. Once I've got the speed and I'm going forward confidently, then I can start introducing the backwards crawl. And then you can go sideways. And that way. It's a fantastic movement. Just take it slowly. The same with the backwards crawl and the sideways crawl. Think about counting those limbs together. So opposite hand, opposite leg, always moving at the same time. If your brain is scrambling, slow it down, take yourself back to the neutral position and start over, but do it really, really slowly. 1, 2, 1, 2, really counting it. And eventually over time you'll become a much more confident crawler. This version of the crawls that we're going to talk about today, and there are a bunch of different crawls and you can play around with them, and loads of different people call them different names. We're going to call the inverted or the crab crawl. These are great for, again, putting you in a slightly different position that you're not always in. If you if you're a guy, a lot of guys will struggle with this because they have very tight pecs and they'll find it very uncomfortable to be in that position. It's a good reason why you should be doing it more. But the inverted crawl, all of the rules are the same. Coming into this position, first of all, just spending a bit of time here. We don't spend a lot of time in this position, so first of all, just find yourself being comfortable. Kind of shift around the weight on your wrists. You can kind of move your hands around as well. Just see what works for you. So Andrew finds this one very difficult because his pecs are very tight. So he's been trying to do more of these recently, but he certainly finds long distance crawls like this really, really hard and challenging. So again, the same rules count. Left hand, right foot, moving at the same time. Just go forwards. Now you might find with these that backwards is a little bit easier. That's what some people have reported. Forwards, backwards, sideways. Play around with these and see how you get on. They're a really nice one, but it's very good to be comfortable in all of that, in all of those movement patterns. We spoke at the beginning that if you have wrist pain and you find being in a crawl really uncomfortable, first of all check out with your physio. Maybe you've got a history of injury, in which case that would make sense that your range of motion here is lessened, but check it out first. It may also just be that you're not used to spending time on your wrists and taking the weight on your wrists, and that can take time to build up, so don't rush it. Do a little bit every day and you'll see a big difference over time. Here's some wrist warm-ups that we recommend, I find really, really useful. So just coming into your quadruped position again, just do this at the beginning. So what I'm doing is just shifting my weight through my fingers. You kind of really want to think about gripping the ground with your fingers, doing little wrist circles. This is just teaching you kind of what it feels like to shift your weight across your hands. Then you can move your hands into different positions for this, so keep circling nice and slowly. There we go. They're really nice. And just circle around. Spend a bit of time with this. This is also one of the warm-ups we do if we were doing handstands and that kind of thing as well. These are good as well. They kind of get your shoulder going and your wrists. I've got my hand on here and I'm just rotating. You can see, getting a few of these. Obviously that's putting your wrist at the other way, but it's really important to be confident in both of those movements and have access to them. So just practice a few of these before you start, and it should help you over time become more comfortable in this position and being able to take weight in that position. Have fun. Best of luck with the crawling. I hope you find that really useful. If you've got any questions at all, please just drop us a message and we'll see if we can field them. See you soon.